Ladakh is under attack, but not from China, but from everyone. You, me, everyone. Ladakh में water crisis हो रहा है, and it is happening due to carbon emissions from the entire world. Climate change तेजी से हो रहा है, ये तो सबको पता ही है. But the places that are getting worst affected by it are the ones that create the least amount of carbon emissions, like Ladakh. Climate change के चलते पिछले 40 सालों में लद्दाख का एवरेज विंटर टेम्परेचर 1 डिग्री सेल्सियस बढ़ गया है, और सिर्फ 1 डिग्री टेम्परेचर बढ़ने से लद्दाख की ओवरऑल वाटर साइकिल की लग गई है. हर साल वहां वैसे ही एवरेज करीब 4 इंच बारिश होती है. रेस्ट इट्स लाइफलाइन इज विंटर स्नोज एंड ग्लेशियर्स इन द माउंटेन्स. विंटर टेम्परेचर बढ़ने से अब बर्फ स्प्रिंग प्लांटिंग सीजन से पहले ही पिघल रही है, और ग्लेशियर पहाड़ में और ऊपर चले गए हैं और प्लांटिंग सीजन के बाद पिघल रहे हैं. बोले तो ड्राई पीरियड बढ़ गया है. हर साल द गैप बिटवीन अ लेट विंटर स्नो मेल्ट एंड स्प्रिंग टाइम ग्लेशियर मेल्ट इज वाइडनिंग, और इसकी वजह से एग्रीकल्चर इज सफरिंग. फार्मलैंड्स आर ड्राइंग. फार्मर्स जो सालों से वीट, बार्ले और पश्मीना गोट्स की रियरिंग करके सर्वाइव कर रहे थे, दे आर नाउ मूविंग क्लोज टू इंडस रिवर आउट ऑफ डेस्परेशन.
Water crisis of Ladakh is not really new. It has always been a desert. If you know Ladakh, it is a desert, and it has always been a desert. Only that our problems are even worse now with climate change. As it is, we are a total desert. It is more like a moonscape or a Marscape. If you look outside my window, you wouldn't believe you are on planet Earth. We had to depend on melting glaciers, who in a way fossilized water from thousands of years ago. Our glaciers, which are like our lifeline, melting away very fast in the face of climate change.
सोनम वांगचुक, जिनके ऊपर 3 इडियट्स में आमिर का कैरेक्टर फुनसुक वांगडू बेस्ड था, he along with his students came up with an ingenious plan to have their water needs met during spring. Ice stupas. Buddhism में stupas are usually a mound of stone or mud जिसमें relics रखे जाते हैं. यहाँ they have started building ice stupas, basically freezing water in winter for use in spring.
These are not new for Ladakh. As a child, I grew up listening to stories about how our ancestors would go into the mountains and somehow create glaciers. It was not very scientific, it was more myth than science. But later, last 30 years, one of our seniors, Mr. Norfell, had been trying to freeze winter waters. So artificial glaciers are not new.
लेकिन इतनी बर्फ जमा पाना जो स्प्रिंग में वाटर नीड्स को फुलफिल कर पाए was impractical. थोड़ा दिमाग लगाया तो आंसर was simple.
Sometimes the things we learn in school are more useful than just for examinations. We all grow up learning about shapes, and that certain shapes have more volume for the surface area, high ratio. And spheres, you would have heard, as minimum surface area for the given volume. Similarly, hemispheres or cones. Now, why I'm talking about surface area is that sun needs surface area to act on ice, to melt it, which we don't want. We want to keep the ice still lit. So we give less and less surface area to the sun and more volume to the farmer. That's where surface area and volume play. So cones are such a shape that are practical to make.
A conical shaped stupa, a tall mound of ice that would shade its own interior. और जितनी steep इस stupa की sides, उतना better, because that reduces the area exposed to the sun.
What we observed was that the ice that was made in conical forms, giant pyramid, lasted till June, whereas flat ice on the ground melted by March. Now by May and June, farmers need water the most. March is premature.
फिर क्या? November 2015 में वांगचुक and his students made the first ice stupa.
2015, I think some of my students and I went near our school to the spring source, and by gravity we brought water in a pipe downhill, which means it builds pressure because water always wants to go to the same level as the inlet, and against this pressure we put a fountain, which meant the water in the fountain sprayed in the air, wanting to go to the level of the inlet, and spraying water into -20 air makes it lose its heat, latent heat to be particular, which is what keeps a liquid, and losing it makes it solid. That's what we learn in 8th grade or 7th grade. So the water droplets fall on the ground and freeze and naturally take roughly the shape of a cone.
ये पहला स्तूपा करीब 20 फीट लंबा था और इसमें करीब 40,000 गैलन पानी था. It lasted until May the next year.
Some of us said it will melt. I'd be happy if it lasts till end of March. Others said end of April. I think I was one of the bold ones. And, it lasted till end of May. After the prototype of 20 feet, we built a pilot of 65 feet, 6 stories tall, with 1 million liters of water. And that lasted till August, early August, which means that it melted when people needed water. And with that, we planted some 5,000 trees and grew trees where nothing grows in the desert.
उसके बाद से वांगचुक has taught villagers around Ladakh to build these stupas. 2019 में they made 12 of them, जिनमें से 2 करीब 100 फीट लंबे थे. 2020 में they built 26, out of which 9 were around 100 feet tall, and now they are innovating. गया नाम के एक village में last year the youth group who built the ice stupa के base पर they also built a cafe there, and they are using the proceeds from this cafe to take village elders on a pilgrimage. There are also annual competitions being held to see who made the highest stupas. 2019 में the stupa near the village of Sharafukt से won the first prize. इस स्तूपा के 20 लाख गैलन पानी ने 4 गांव के फील्ड्स को इरिगेट किया. Not just that, these stupas are now attracting tourists as well. Ice climbers are now climbing to scale its steep flanks. But climate change से spring time में लद्दाख को सुखा नहीं रहा. इसकी वजह से there are also flash floods happening due to crazy summer rains. इन stupas के पानी से not just fields, even hillsides could be revegetated and that could soak up rain. प्यांग village की monastery के monks यहाँ बने स्तूपा के पानी से 5,000 पेड़ उगा रहे हैं.
The world needs to know the crisis facing the mountain regions that depend on glaciers, B, the coastal people that are so close to the ocean, and if the level rises, they'll be drowned. Millions of houses, habitats, and so on. World needs to learn. The world doesn't need to learn or watch a video like this and entertain themselves about what we did with ice stupas. That's not important. Ice stupas are not something we want to brag about or feel proud about. It is actually a symbol of what is happening to the people in the mountains. So I want the people to look at ice stupas as a last resort that mountain people are pushed to make their own glaciers. And therefore, we want them to know that they have to change their behaviors, which is what is causing climate change and melting of glaciers. And therefore, last year, we launched the I Live Simply movement so that you don't watch about ice stupas to entertain yourself, but also act. And I Live Simply movement on ilivesimply.org is about pledging to change your lifestyle, mostly around New Year, which is now. You want to make resolutions, not just for yourself, but for the whole planet and all living beings. So there you make pledges like you'll use bicycles more instead of cars, or walk more, or trains instead of aeroplanes, go vegetarian, plant trees. The world needs to know if we change our behaviors in time, we might survive. If not, today it's our turn in the mountains and the coastal areas. Tomorrow it will be the whole planet.
Carbon emission हम कर रहे हैं, लग रही है लद्दाखियों की. We all need to know what is happening in Ladakh and change our carbon intensive city lifestyles. Tell me in the comments below what you think about this and share this video with as many people as possible.